My name is Amit Khuva and I'm the founder of Cafe Comedy. And welcome to the workshop where we will be talking about how to write and perform jokes. We will be talking about a couple of formulas, a couple of theories, couple of structures about how can you create a universal structured joke out of any idea that comes in your mind, out of any premise that comes in your mind. So it's going to be a 40-50 minute long workshop where we will be understanding different formulas and different structures to achieve the same. So we'll start with a very beautiful burning question. Whenever we conduct any comedy workshops at Cafe Comedy, we always start workshop of ours with a very simple question that can comedy be learned or not? Comedy सीखी जा सकती है कि नहीं? As we are running this academy in India, we get a lot of DMs, a lot of messages, a lot of calls every day that, how can you teach comedy? Comedy is something that comes from within. It's something that comes by birth. How can you make someone learn comedy? How can you make it teachable, right? So we need to understand a very simple terminology here. We need to understand very simple idea here that there are two different things. One is stand-up comedy and the second is sense of humor. There are two simple things that need to be differentiated. We generally miscommunicate and misunderstand both of them with each other. One is stand-up comedy and the second is sense of humor. Sense of humor is something that cannot be taught, that cannot be transferred, that cannot be learned through a workshop or by reading a book. It is something that either you have or you do not have that. We all have that one uncle or auntie in our family who is never happy. When I say that, you have an uncle or auntie in your mind right now who is never happy. You just go to them and tell them that मेरे 99% आ गए. I've got 99% in my exam. Like, yeah, that's fine. You could have gotten 100. It's just 1 mark less than the perfect. And there is also one uncle or auntie in our family who is always happy. No matter what bad thing happens around them, they're always happy. A jolly person of the family. Like you tell them that, uncle, I've got a loss of 7 lakh Indian rupees in my business. They're like, okay, 10 to nahi hua na. It haven't been to 10 lakh. It's completely fine, my friend. So that's a difference between having a sense of humor and not having it. It's something that either you are a funny person or you are not. If you are a very serious person, then there is no injection of sense of humor available in the market which we can inject in yourself. That is something that you understand, right? But if you have sense of humor, then there is something called stand-up comedy, which as an art form can be taught, can be learned, can be understood. So इसको अलग तरीके से समझे. If you understand this with another example, what do you need to make a food dish? There are two things that you need in order to create a food dish. Number one, you need ingredients, correct? You need ingredients to make something of a food dish, and then you need a recipe. Even if you have all the sufficient ingredients to make that food dish, you need another thing called recipe. If you don't know the recipe, then there cannot be a conversion from a piece of ingredient to a ready-made food dish. So the recipe is stand-up comedy and the ingredient that you need is sense of humor. If you don't have the ingredient, it's impossible to make the dish. But even if you have the ingredient, you need to understand that you need a recipe to create a dish out of it. किसी का आवाज बहुत अच्छा है. If someone has a very good voice, if someone has a very good voice by birth, he or she cannot be a playback singer at the age of 3 years, right? Just because he or she has a good voice. Even if the good voice is there, even if your voice is very accurate, very surila, very punctual, even in that case, you need to understand the sur, the tal of music. You need to understand how music works, how notes work, how tune work in order to become a singer. Being good at the voice and being a singer is different. Just like that, being a funny person, being a jolly person, and being a stand-up comedian is different. So we'll be understanding that you have sense of humor and how to create jokes out of it, how to create your insane ideas converted into structured, funny, universal jokes. We start with the formula number one, very simple. A joke is equal to setup plus punchline. Be it a one-line single joke or be it a 2-minute long joke, every joke in the world has two different parts involved in it, included in it. There is a punchline and there is a setup. Punchline is the funny part of the joke where people laugh, or at least according to the comedian where people should have been laughed. Because not all the time where you expect people to laugh, they laugh at the same point, right? So your expected sentence where you are expecting people to laugh is a punchline, is a funny part of your joke, right? And in order to get that funny part, in order to get that punchline working, you need to give them enough information or context. That is known as setup. I'll give you an example. Let's say if I have a very funny joke about my uncle, and if I'm gonna crack the joke to my family and my friends and my relatives and my neighbors, they are gonna find it funny because they know my uncle personally, right? But if I want Mr. Rajat Sharma or Mr. Tejas Vaishnav to laugh about my uncle, first of all, I need to tell you that how funny my uncle's personality is. I'm gonna give you a picture. I'm gonna give you a couple of examples that how weird he is as a person. And then once the personality, once the context is there in your mind, and if then I crack a joke about my uncle, then it's going to be funny for you. Then there's a chance of it being funny to you, right? So the information or the context that you give to your audience is the setup part of the joke, and then the funny sentence that you crack, that you mention about the information is known as a punchline, right? Now I have a question. I want you to answer the question to me in the chat box if possible. The question is very simple and I want you to answer honestly. Don't get influence from each other's answer. The question is very simple. When you see someone falling from a banana peel or something slippery, let's say you are walking on road and you saw someone falling down. So what would be your first impromptu reaction as a human being? I'll give you two options, like any game show. The option number one, you'll feel pity, daya aayegi. You'll feel pity about that person. Number two, hasi aayegi. You'll feel laugh about that. So if you feel pity, write pity in the chat box. If you think you'll laugh first, then write laugh in the chat box. So I've got one laugh, another laugh, another laugh. So I've got 3 laugh out of 5. Then there is 4th laugh and the 5th one is pity. So you understand that not everyone is okay to laugh at that, right? But yahan pe, at this particular workshop, I have 90% of the people okay to laugh at it. Now let's understand another joke formula, which is joke is equal to character plus situation. When I told you that someone is falling down, I've given you the first half of the information, situation, right? I've given you the situation that someone is falling down. But I have not given you the other half of the information, and that is who is falling down. I've never told you the character who is falling down, right? And you said you would be okay to laugh. Now let's put a couple of characters into the situation and see how it depends or how it affects the final response. Let's say if it's an 85-year-old grandma who is walking on the street, और उनके चश्मे रोड पे गिर जाते हैं. Her specs falls down on the road and she is bending down to pick up the spec. And if she falls down, it would be a little tough for us to laugh at that situation, right or wrong? We may laugh a little, but it's not going to be a ha ha kind of a laughter. It's not a hilarious situation if a grandma falls down, right? But if we change the character to your 25-year-old boy who is walking on the street with an 18-year-old younger sibling, and who is smacking on the head to the younger sibling after every 15 seconds, having the headphones on, looking in the left direction, walking in the right direction. If this guy falls down, it's okay to laugh, right? In 99% of the cases, we'll be like, yeah, it's not gonna hurt him so much. Let's laugh on it. So whenever we try to write comedy, whenever you may have tried to write comedy, you are always concentrating on what happens in my story that can be funny. We always concentrate on what is happening in our story. What twist I can get in my story, what surprise I can include in my story that can make my jokes a little more funnier. We always concentrate on what is happening in my story, but rather we should concentrate on with whom it is happening. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? It's about with whom it is happening. Someone slapped someone. It's not a funny sentence. My father slapped me. It's still not a funny sentence. My brother slapped me. It's still not a funny sentence. But if I say my 3-year-old nephew slapped me, you're like, yeah, that's interesting at least, right? What have you done to a 3-year-old kid, Amit, that made him slap you? I would like to know the rest of the story. So it's not about slapping. It's about who is slapping who. That makes it funny or unfunny. A joke that you crack in your office about the boss, about CEO of the company, if you just remove the character of boss and add the character of accountant in that joke might not be funny anymore. Do you agree to that? It wasn't a funny joke because it was a funny joke. It was a funny joke because it was about the boss. the character of the joke is something that makes it funny or unfunny, not the situation. Perspective matters. I've read a survey, I guess, a couple of years back, around 7-8 years back, and the survey, a legitimate website survey, that says that there are around 1.2 million stand-up comedians working in the world right now, and that is also a 7-year-old figure. So currently, it might be a very big number than that. There is no survey happened in India, but I'm assuming that, and that's my logical assumption, that in India as well we have 18 to 20,000 working comedians, and it includes everyone from the most popular comedian of India to me to you to a newcomer who just started open mic yesterday. So my point here is that, and the question that I'm asking all of you who are attending this workshop, who are watching this workshop, my question is very simple: that can there be a unique topic? Can there be a new topic on which you believe that you are talking and no one from those 1.2 million people have so far talked? Can there be a unique topic? It's very tough to find a unique topic which you talk about and no one else have talked. If Mr. Tejas is writing a joke about a particular topic, and if tomorrow morning he goes on YouTube and write that idea on YouTube, he'll be figuring out that someone have uploaded a YouTube video 2 months back on the same thought. It's possible to have the same thought, right? If he goes on HBO or Netflix or Prime, he'll be able to find out that, oh, there is a stand-up special 10 years back on the same idea. That doesn't mean that someone stole your idea from future, right? No, it's like there are very few topics to talk about and there are millions of comedians working on them at any point of time, right? So I'm gonna give you a topic in today's workshop which can be the most unique topic. Even if all of you are talking about that topic, it still becomes unique. And the name of that topic is perspective of yours. Because in the entire world, no one is talking about Mr. Dhirendra's perspective other than Mr. Dhirendra himself. धीरेन्द्र भाई क्या सोचते हैं वो तो सिर्फ धीरेन्द्र भाई को पता है, right? What धीरेन्द्र भाई thinks about something is something that only he knows. So it's not about the topic that you joke about. It's about what's your opinion about that. What's your perspective? What's your POV, point of view about it, right? Mr. Donald Trump became the president of the United States of America, and every possible joke was on Twitter in the next 45 seconds. Not even a single minute actually, right? In 45 to 50 minutes, there was every possible angle even worked out. In the first 1 minute, every possible direct joke was said on Twitter. In the next 1 hour, every possible angle, even the layered angle is also now spoken out. So there is not even a single angle or single way of cracking a joke about Mr. Donald Trump becoming the president of USA left after 1 hour. If you write something after 1 hour of that incident, you are basically writing a joke which someone already have wrote. But then if you write about what do you think about that incident, what do you think about that situation, is going to be the unique one, right or wrong? Adding your own perspective makes it unique. If I remove two topics, engineering and dating applications, from Indian comedy industry, 85% of the jokes are gone. Every other comedian in India is talking about either dating applications or engineering. Does that mean I shouldn't talk about dating apps or engineering in India? No, I should talk about it. Why? Because those two are the most relatable topics in India right now. If I say how many engineers in the house, there are 15 people out of 20 gonna raise hand in India, right? So bolna chahiye, then I should talk about it, right? But then I shouldn't talk about the jokes or the angles that everyone have talked about. I should talk about my opinion about engineering, my opinion about dating applications. If we add our own perspective into it, it makes it unique. It makes it interesting for the people. Now I want you to write your favorite comedian's name in the chat box. Just write, when you hear the word comedian, stand-up comedian, which is the first name that comes in your mind, just write the name in the chat box please for me. Abhishek, Upmanyu, Andrew, Jerry Seinfeld, Russell Peters. Okay, so now what I want you to do is that I want you to remember one single joke of your favorite stand-up comedian for the next 2 minutes, and I'm gonna mention something about it. Remember any one single joke from your favorite stand-up comedian and understand this. There are only two categories of joke in the entire world in which the jokes can be categorized. First category is opinion-based jokes, where the comedian is presenting his or her opinion about something. I believe that. I think that, I understand that, I feel that. That's an opinion of a comedian, right? And the second category of joke is observation based jokes, where the comedian is presenting an observation that he or she have observed. It goes like, I have seen that, I have noticed that, I have felt that, I have observed that, you know. So that is observation based jokes. Now we need to understand the word that I'm writing in the chat box. The word goes premise. You may pronounce it as premise or premise. I'll go with premise. So the word premise simply means idea behind the joke. It's not the joke itself. It's the idea on which the joke is based. Do you understand that? It's the idea behind the joke. Now we get a lot of ideas in our head on daily basis, while driving, while eating, while being in a lunch break at office, while sleeping, while trying to sleep. We get thousands of ideas in our mind which makes ourselves smile. Yeah, like you're thinking something and you're smiling, like that's funny. But 15 minutes later, when you tell the same idea to your friend, the friend says that no, it's not funny. Why do you think it's funny? Or let's forget about friend. Even if you yourself revisit the idea after a couple of minutes, it's still not being funny to you after 15 minutes. You know, it was funny at that moment, but not anymore. Because it wasn't a joke, it was a premise. Do you understand this? Now I'll make you understand two simple step process of creating a structured joke out of any idea in the world. It's a very simple process. We're going to learn that in 5 minutes, right? Simple two-step process to create comedy, create joke out of any idea that comes in your mind. Step number 1, identify whether your idea is opinion or observation. I'll give you an example. Let's say if I have an example that along with being a comedian, I'm a comedy trainer. Sometimes I take workshops for multiple countries. So let's say if I have a workshop for Bahrain or Kuwait or United States or Canada, I'm going to sleep very late in the night or maybe early in the morning, like 4 a.m., 3 a.m., something, right? My mother knows my schedule, that sometimes my son takes a workshop for the foreign countries and he slept just by 3 a.m. Even when I slept at 3 a.m., my mother is going to wake me up by 4:30 to have a cup of tea with her. That's her obsession. Now that's funny to me. It's not a joke. Do you understand this? I can't expect 1,000 people laugh at this thing because it's not a joke. Not because it's not a good joke, because it's not a joke at all. That's a premise. That's an idea, right? If I want to make people laugh on that idea, I need to create a joke out of it. Step number 1, identify whether your idea, whether your premise is opinion based or observation based. Of course, this one is an observation based, right? That Amit's mother wakes him up 4:30 in the morning. Now we need to understand that if the idea is observation based, then step 2 would be to add an opinion into it. Adding an opinion of anyone would make it a structured joke. It can be an opinion from my mother. Then I've took care of yourself from the from since the beginning of your life, and you can't even drink tea with me in the morning. It can be an opinion of my wife. That if I wake you up, you're not waking up. Mummy wakes you, you waking up. That's very bad. It can be an opinion of my dad. That beta, it's very good that you are waking up to have a drink, a cup of tea with her. The day you stop waking up, I have to wake up 4:30 to have a cup of tea with your mom. Adding someone's opinion will make it a joke. I'm not saying a great joke. I'm saying a structured joke. Then we can make it hilarious later on, right? By working multiple drafts of it. Let's take another example. I have another idea. So if you have seen a picture of Indian Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi a couple of years back or a couple of months back actually, he had this white long beard. Do you remember? Like a 1.5 feet long white beard. According to me, it doesn't suit his face. According to me. Now let's make a joke about it. First of all, step number 1, identify whether it's an opinion or an observation. Of course, it's an opinion of an Indian citizen to a fellow citizen, right? That it doesn't suit his face. Now step 2, if it's an opinion, all I need to do is that I need to add an observation about it which justifies my premise, which backs up my premise, which is an example of my premise. So it goes like Indian Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi should not have the white long beard, because last time when we saw someone with a white long beard was Dumbledore from Harry Potter. And we all know what happened with Dumbledore in the last season, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that any joke in the world should have two things in it. opinion and observation. Ideal joke should have two things in it, right? One of them comes as an idea in your mind, and the second one you have to manually add. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I'll repeat. One of them comes as an idea in your head, and the second one has to be manually added by you, right? So let's say Mr. Tejas is driving and he suddenly get an idea. It's like, that's funny. That can be a joke. He just need to park aside. He need to think whether the idea is opinion or an observation. It's something that I've observed while driving, or it's something that I feel, I think about something or someone, right? If it's an observation, add an opinion. What do you think about it? And if it's an opinion, add an observation to prove it, to justify it. And it will give you the structured joke. It can be funny, it can be unfunny. If it's okayish funny, it's average funny, then we need to work on it in different drafts until it becomes hilarious. Then it's a matter of practice, right? But at least it becomes a structured joke. Drafting makes jokes, because no one is Superman or Superwoman other than Superman or Superwoman. When we say drafting, it means rewriting the same joke again and again. A 5-minute stand-up comedy video that we see on YouTube, what do you think, how much time it took to the comedian to write a 5-minute bit? 5 minutes? Maybe more than that, right? Maybe 1 hour, 2 hour, 1 week, 1 month, 6 months. It could be a year as well, right? So what I'm trying to sense here, what I'm trying to ask you to understand here is that no one takes a paper and pen, thinks for a minute, taps on the head for a couple of times and writes a joke which is directly going viral on YouTube or Netflix. It doesn't work that way. We all write average jokes in the first attempt. Then we rewrite them again and put them in structure. Then we rewrite and add some characters into it. Then we rewrite and make it contextually relatable. Then we rewrite and add some persona, emotion into it. Then we rewrite until it becomes funny. We go to an open mic, come back, modify, go to another open mic, come back, modify. We work on the same joke again and again and again until it becomes hilarious for most of the audiences. It's a continuous process. You understand this, right? No one writes an amazing joke in the first attempt. Comedy does not work that way. What do we do while we are rewriting it? We evaluate. You see, I'm recording this workshop. So whenever I'm going to conduct any other workshop of this kind, I'm going to evaluate the recording of this one. I'm going to see that at what particular point of my PowerPoint presentation, one of you gone like, nahi samajh mein aaya, I didn't get it, bro. At what point of my PowerPoint presentation, most of you nodded and said, yeah, we got it, bro. I would be able to be better at what I'm doing if I constantly evaluate and modify it according to the responses need, right? I need to be constantly working on it. I need to evaluate each thing that I'm doing, each joke that I'm performing, each content that I'm writing to be constantly better at it. Now, all the people who have joined this workshop or all the people who are watching this video, watching this workshop, you can have a different purpose than what I think you have a purpose of learning comedy, right? Everyone has a different purpose actually. Some of you are joining and watching this maybe because you want to become a commercially stand-up comedian. Some of you are watching because you want to try comedy as a side part-time job, right? Maybe some of you wants to try comedy in your routine life and never want to become a commercial comedian. Maybe some of you wants to be humorous in general, right? There can be several different reasons. There can be several different purposes of learning humor, right? Now what you see on your screen right now and what I'm trying to explain in the next few minutes is something that is applicable to all the reasons possible, all the reasons that you could have to learn comedy, right? There are 4 kinds of consistency that you need to achieve. You understand the word consistency, right? Doing something on a frequent basis, right? So there are 4 kinds of consistencies that I want to talk in this workshop. Number 1, writing consistency. You can't wait for a funny joke to come in your mind and then start writing. You need to start writing and then a funny joke will come in mind. You understand that? No successful comedians wait for 6 months because there is no idea coming in your mind. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to take a paper and pen on a fixed day and time and you need to write jokes. But you can't be funny by controlling everything. You can't be funny. If I ask Mr. Rajat to write a joke by 11 p.m. tonight, he can't be funny exactly at 11 p.m. It would be tough for him, right? So it should be done in 2 simple steps. Number 1, whenever you get an idea, whenever you figure out a thought in your mind, you need to write it down somewhere. Whenever, let's say if you are driving, or let's say if you are eating and you get an idea in your mind, you write it down somewhere, either in a Google Note or an Apple Note, or maybe a pocket diary or a voice note, or maybe on your own WhatsApp number, somewhere. Just jot it down, just write it down, right? You may already are doing it, you know. Now the point is that at some point of time you need to take a paper and pen to elaborately work on those ideas. Let's say if Mr. Rajat has 15 ideas written in Google Note or Apple Note, but he need to figure out a day and time where he's taking a paper and pen and working on those 15 ideas. Otherwise those ideas are going to be there only in one lines, right? So you need to have a day and time. If you are a little available, you can write 1 hour daily. If you are a busy person, you can write 1 hour weekly. If you are extremely busy person, you can write 1 hour monthly. But there should be a fixed day and time allocated where you take a paper and pen and you write jokes. You elaborate the ideas that come across to your mind in the last week. Next is performing consistency. Let's say if you have written a couple of jokes, who would tell you whether your jokes are funny or not? Who would tell you? You come up with the best joke ever and go to your father and he'll be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You come up with the worst joke that you could have and go to your mom and she'll be like, very funny. You know? You go to your friends, either they will be too mean or they will be too supportive. Either they find all of your jokes extremely funny or they'll find all of your jokes extremely rubbish. They're never going to give you critical feedbacks, right? So in order to find out whether you have written a good joke or not, a funny joke or not, you need to get in front of an audience. You understand that? A stranger will be able to tell you whether your joke is funny or not. Where can you get strangers? When can you get audience? Maybe in an open mic, or maybe a friend's birthday party, a college meeting, a club's get together, office annual function, friend's birthday party, daughter's friend's birthday party, friend's daughter's birthday party. Doesn't matter. Whenever you have a couple of jokes written, a microphone in your hand and 50 people in front of you who do not know you personally, it's an opportunity to try your jokes. If they're laughing on one of the joke, it's funny. If they're not laughing at one of your joke, it needs more work to be done on that one, right? So you need to constantly, continuously perform your jokes in order to find whether they are funny or not. Number 3, learning consistency. There are 5,000 comedy techniques in the world. I'm not saying a random number, I've written it down. 5,000 comedy techniques. You may have heard a couple of them because they are popular, like rule of 3, callback, tags, after punches. You may have heard them, right? My point here is that I'm not asking you to learn 5,000 techniques. That would be insane. I'm asking you a very simple thing to adapt in your routine, and that is learn a new comedy technique every week or every month. And not only try them in your stand-up comedy performances, but also attempt them, practice them in your day-to-day routine. So let's say if Tejas ji is writing on Google, what's the most popular comedy technique, and if he gets one, let's say rule of 3, if you learn rule of 3 from Google or maybe a workshop, right? And then you need to not only try rule of 3 in your stand-up comedy acts, but also in your routine, in your daily conversation with your friends, colleagues, relatives, right? If you do that for 15 days, 20 days, 1 month continuously, eventually you be amazing at that technique. And that way, if you are learning a new technique every week and being better at it by practicing it a lot, then eventually your sense of humor becomes too good. Eventually your way of cracking jokes becomes more efficient. Now it's 21st century, there is no reason to ask that where can we learn? There are plenty of options available, right or wrong? You can learn from Google. There are more than 100 books available on Amazon. There can be ebooks, workshops, coaching programs, mentors like me. There can be social media handles where there are a lot of content getting uploaded. It can be a vlog, blog, ebook, article. Thousands of ways are there. Just learn new comedy techniques very consistently and apply them in your day-to-day conversations, and it will eventually become a huge part of you trying to crack jokes in your daily routine. It will make an impactful drastic change in your way of cracking jokes on the impromptu situations. And last but not the least, consuming consistency. I believe all of you are comedy lovers, and whenever you get a little time in your life, you go to YouTube or Amazon or Netflix and watch a couple of comedy videos. You do that, right? All of us do that. Now there is a slight change in it. I want you to not only watch the popular comedians, but also watch some unexplored artists. So it's not a bad idea to watch popular comedians. Like Russell Peter dropped a new video, have to watch it. It's good, you should watch it. You're gonna learn so much from him, right? It's not a bad idea to watch a popular comedian's video. Ki Zakir Bhai ka naya video, I have to watch it. Go watch, it's amazing. It's going to be helpful. But along with it, while you do that, I also want you to go on YouTube once in a while. Just write stand-up comedy, put an enter button, go to the 15th page of YouTube and watch the video number 12. You know, there is a video with 12 views, 3 likes, 1 comment. Watch that person. You should not limit your knowledge of comedy just to the 25 viral comedians. If you just watch them again and again, you can think that comedy is only how they do it. There can be only this much possible ways to do comedy. You can't limit yourself. You shouldn't limit yourself in that. I am watching a new comedian since last more than 1 year, 2 year, every day. My knowledge of comedy is more than 500,000 comedians vast. You get it? Maybe someday Rajat Ji is going on YouTube and watching an unexplored comedian with 43 views, and he's like, I can relate to this guy more than any popular comedian. This is something that this is how comedy can be done. I could do that, you know. You may find someone who you relate more than the popular comedians. So it's a good idea to consume comedy not only of the popular artists, but also to the artists which no one have recommended, which are unexplored, which are yet to explore for the rest of the world. Do not write and critique at the same time. I am assuming, and actually I am hoping that this workshop will motivate you so that you are going to write a couple of jokes tonight or maybe tomorrow, right? You're going to use the weekend and you're going to write some jokes. Let's say if you do that, here is an advice while writing them. I advise you not to write and read them at the same time. Let's say if Tejas Ji is writing 10 jokes tonight and if he reads 10 jokes immediately, there can be 2 possible responses from our own self. Number 1, we can find our joke rubbish. Ki kya kachra likha hai? This is not at all funny. It's rubbish. This is going to be in dustbin, right? And the second possible reaction from your own self can be that this is amazing. Where is the email ID of Netflix? Tell everyone someone is coming in the industry, you know. But I'm telling this after giving it so much thought, you know. I'm telling this after 18 years of experience in Gujarati comedy performing and 9 years of experience in comedy training. I've trained more than 2,500 comedians, and after that I'm telling this with very thought in it, right? That no one, not you, me, or any popular comedian of the world, no one writes amazing in the first draft and no one writes completely rubbish in the first draft as well. We all write average in the first draft. Then eventually we make it funny. Eventually we make it hilarious. And if we don't work on it, it becomes rubbish eventually, right? So the ideal process would be, if Tejas Ji is writing 10 jokes tonight, he should write them on a piece of paper, put the paper in drawer and sleep over it. Tomorrow morning, after a couple of hours gap, take a cup of tea in your hand and take out that paper from drawer and read it loud. You know, when you read it out loud after a couple of hours, you will be able to rightly judge your content. You'll be like, out of 10, 2 of them are hilarious, 2 of the jokes are rubbish, and 6 of them can be worked on. You would be able to rightly criticize and rightly evaluate your jokes if you take a little gap, a couple of hours gap between writing them and reading them. It's a bad idea to read and immediately write. And it's also a bad idea to write and immediately read. It goes hand in hand. Next point is body language and voice modification. Other than poker face comedy, there is a comedy type called poker face, deadpan humor. You know, other than that format of humor, in every other format of comedy, body language and voice modification plays a huge role in comedy, right? It's possible that before you logged in or before you started this workshop, you may or may not have seen me earlier than this workshop. You know, I may be a new name or new face to you. Just imagine that by the time you started this workshop, Amit Khua speaks like this, that, hi guys, my name is Amit Khua. I'm the founder of Asia's only comedy training academy, and we are going to learn how to write and perform jokes in today's workshop in next couple. Just imagine for 15 minutes. Forget 15 minutes, that goes on for 10 minutes and half of you are like, gotta go, I have a meeting. Thank you, Amit Ji. You know, my point here is that Body language and voice modification is way to communicate confidence. If I want you to think my workshop is interesting, first of all, I need to believe that my workshop is interesting, right or wrong? If you want your audience to think that your jokes are funny, first of all, my friend, you need to believe that your jokes are funny. And with the right amount of body language and voice modification, you are actually conveying the confidence. Just imagine that if I make a PDF of this workshop and if I send it to you on email, will it be that effective, exactly that effective that it currently is? It may not, right? Half of you may not read it, and even if you are reading it, it's just a piece of content, right? It is not that impactful. Because in this video, I'm not just only conveying the content, I'm also conveying my confidence that, premise is idea behind the joke. You need to work on it. I'm confident. You're like, if he's saying with that much confidence, it must be true, my friend. I'm conveying my confidence through this workshop. I'm conveying my confidence through the right amount of body language and voice modification, and that's make it impactful. So this is a process, whatever we have mentioned so far, this is a one simple formulated process. So when you get an idea in your head, the first step would be to write a draft about it, which means you need to vomit the words on a piece of paper. You heard it right, vomit. You need to vomit out words on a piece of paper. Just write 1,000, 2,500 words or 5,000 words essay about the topic that you want to joke about. Step 2, then you add some techniques, add some structure into it, and convert this essay into a stand-up comedy script. You utilize the formulas and create a script out of it. Then the third step would be, once you have a script, you go in an open mic and you perform it in front of the live audience. You record it, come back home. Next step would be to evaluate it. That if some of the jokes didn't work, why did it didn't work? What could go wrong? It was funny to my friends. Why wasn't it funny to my audience? Is there the lack of context? Was my voice not clear? What was going wrong while I was saying that joke? Why it didn't work? You need to evaluate that, right? You can't be a good comedian in 25 open mics if you do the same mistake in 25 open mics. You can't. If it didn't work in the first one, you have to figure out why it didn't work in the first one, right? Along with that, you also need to understand and figure out why the couple of jokes worked. Let's say if one of your jokes killed, it get a great laugh. You need to understand why did it get the great laugh. A good magician is someone who knows the trick so that he can perform it again. If somehow your jokes worked but you are not sure what make them funny, then you are not going to be able to do it again, right? So why did my jokes work and why did my jokes didn't work? Understand that, evaluate that. Then as per the evaluate, you do couple of modification. If couple of the jokes are not working, then you figure out why they are not working, what could be changed, what experiment can be done with that. Again, go on the stage, perform it, come back, evaluate. This is a constant practice that goes on and on till most of your jokes become funny, till most of your jokes become successful in 99% of the cases. Now, two very simple bonus learnings that I want you to understand. Incidents are better than stories in comedy. You understand the difference between incident and story? Hindi mein kahani aur kisse ka fark. Incident versus story. In comedy, it is better to perform in the format of incident rather than the format of story. So I'll give you an example. I would request all of you to kindly turn on the video and just look at me for 5 minutes. This is very important. Just concentrate on what I'm saying. So I'm going to tell you something. So there is a boy called Rajesh from Bangalore, which is the southern part of India. Okay, Rajesh is the name. Bangalore is the city that he is from. Rajesh has 5 brothers and 3 sisters. How many brothers? 5. How many sisters? 3. Out of 5 brothers, 2 of them are elder than Rajesh, 2 of them are younger than Rajesh, and 1 brother is his twin sibling. Out of 3 sisters, 1 of them is 2 years older than Rajesh. You are not interested in Rajesh, are you? You lost me at 5 brothers, frankly. You're just staring at me but not listening to what I'm saying. Because it's a random story of Rajesh. You don't want to listen to that, right? My bad. Now I would request you to give me another chance and look for 2 more minutes in my eyes and just listen to this. So this is a workshop that I'm conducting for a couple of students from India, a couple of students from US, Malaysia. I'm mixing it up. Now, just because this workshop is 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time, I was thinking that I could plan one more workshop in the early evening. So I planned one more workshop which was 6:30 p.m. Indian time, which is 9 p.m. for Malaysia. Clear? 6:30 India time, 9 p.m. Malaysia. So in the Malaysia workshop today, I've got one student whose name is Dhirendra R. So Indian naam laga mujhe. I thought this is an Indian name, so I asked that person, where are you from? He said, I am from Delhi. And I'm like, then why have you joined in Malaysia workshop? He said, because I am in Kuala Lumpur right now. I'm like, then why have you joined and registered for the Indian workshop? He's like, I haven't. My team is like, no sir, this is two different Dhirendra. That Dhirendra ji is from India, UP, his Dhirendra is from Kuala Lumpur. So there are two. I'm like, Dhirendra ji, can you tell me more about yourself? He's like, yeah, I have 5. You are a little more interested into this Dhirendra from Kuala Lumpur, at least a little more from that Rajesh from Bangalore. Do you agree? Why? Because that Rajesh from Bangalore was a random story which has no relevance or no connection to neither me nor you. But this Dhirendra from Kuala Lumpur is an incident that happened with Amit Kuwat 2.5 hours ago. Agreed? Now there is a question. Was there any Dhirendra from Kuala Lumpur in my Malaysia workshop today? There is another question. Did I had any Malaysia workshop today? That only I know, right? So what I'm trying to convey here is that even if you want to say a fictional story, it has to be said in a format like it happened, in a format of incident, in order to make it funny, in order to make your audience attentive till the last part of the joke. Do I make sense? 100% yes? Perfect. Get eager for the start and enjoy the end. So I'm gonna tell you this in a very practical way, you know. So let's say if I have a younger brother and I want to tease my brother, and if I have a sentence which can annoy him, I'm not just gonna go there and say that to him, right? I'm gonna go there and go like, you know, hey brother, I have something that may piss you off, but you know, don't get annoyed. See, if you are gonna tell mummy, then I'm not gonna do it, yeah. See, it doesn't mean that I mean it if I'm saying it. So should I tell it? Are you sure you're not gonna be mad? You know, I am building it up. In comedy, we call this building up a joke. I'm building it up so much that my brother is already annoyed even before the comment is arrived, right? Number 2, let's say if I'm making a comment and he's getting annoyed, and if I have another comment, I'm not gonna use it right now. I'm gonna enjoy the response and gonna save the comment for the next time, right? So let's say if Rajat ji goes on stage with 15 jokes and the audience is laughing on the first joke for more than 3 minutes, he shouldn't be worried ki band karo, why are you laughing so much? I have few more jokes to, you know, perform. He shouldn't. I'm a Gujarati Indian. I'm like, you know, mal bacha hai. If something is left in stock, it's gonna be saved for the next time. We are not a salesman and we are not there to complete the March ending target, right or wrong? We are not there to complete 15 jokes. We are there to make people laugh. So even if I have 15 jokes prepared and I'm going on stage and my audience is laughing so hard on the first 5 jokes, I should be happy with it. Right? You are learning comedy through workshop, you are writing it down on a piece of paper, you are preparing it, you are making them in structure, you are making multiple drafts, you are rehearsing it, you are registering for an open mic, traveling to the open mic spot, waiting for your turn, going on stage, you know, working with the stage fear and nervousness and performing the joke. Why are you doing all this stuff? To make your audience laugh. Do you agree? And if they are laughing, you shouldn't be like, don't laugh much, I have another joke. No, we are not there to perform jokes. We are there to make people laugh. Now, this is the most important sentence of the workshop that summarize it. That stand-up comedy, even though this is a comedy workshop and we have learned a lot of formulas, still, comedy is not about making jokes. Comedy is about making people laugh. Do you understand this? I repeat, comedy is not about making jokes. Comedy is about making people laugh. Now, we all have that one uncle in our family who is always funny when there is a wedding around. है ना? मौसा जी होते हैं ना एक शादी में. When that uncle arrives in the wedding, every cousin is very happy. You know, now uncle is here, we are gonna laugh. So my point here is that if you take that uncle from your city, you know, get him to New York and make him perform in a comedy club, will he be even funny there? That's a question, right? That's a difference between being a funny person and being a stand-up comedian. A funny person is funny to a certain amount of people in a certain amount of situation when they know certain amount of context. A stand-up comedian has to be funny when and where he is performing. That's a huge thing, right? And to achieve that, 99% of the times, we need to understand the formulas. But the formulas are not only the point of jokes. You can't just create jokes by fitting words into formulas. First of all, you need sense of humor. Second of all, you need to understand the formulas. And third, the most important one, you need to get on stage. Even with the right guidance and right mentorship, you have to get on stage to be a good comedian. You can't listen to Amit Kua for 15 hours on Zoom and become a comedian on the 16th hour. It doesn't work that way, right? What I'm trying to convey here is that when I started comedy 17, 18 years ago, when I was 8-year-old, I started my first commercial comedy show at the age of 9. I was on national television at the age of 13. I started comedy way back in 2006-7, right? My point is that when I started comedy, there were no open mics. There were no workshops. There were no books. There were no internet articles about stand-up comedy and techniques. So we had to go on stage and do mistakes in order to learn from them, right? It took me more than 5-6 years or more than 500-700 stage time in order to get good at the techniques, get good at the humor enhancement, right? But you are in an era when you decided to become a stand-up comedian, you are in an era when there are books available, coaching program is available in India and other countries too. Then there are articles available, open mics available, opportunities available, people to guide available. It's very easy to do that. But let's say Rajat ji, without any kind of guidance, 10 years down the line, great comedian. With guidance, he can be a great comedian in 3-4 years. We are just saving time here. Right guidance and right knowledge can save you time, but it doesn't guarantee you comedy without going on stage, right? It doesn't guarantee you a comedy career without going on stage. You have to get on stage and there is no alternative to it. Make sense? So the summary of the workshop that I want to continue with is that you need to get on stage. That's number one. Number two, it's always a good idea to get the knowledge before beginning the comedy career. It's always a good idea to learn what you want to do in order to avoid failure in the first few times, right? If you fail for the first 15 times in a row, you're gonna get disappointed. But if you learn a couple of things about the art form before jumping into it, or maybe while you are jumping in it, you can avoid failure most of the times and can be still confident for rest of your comedy career or rest of the career for any art form, right? So at the end of this workshop, I just want to mention a difference between 3 terminologies that you deserve to understand as you have attended the whole workshop till the end. There are 3 different ways that someone can attract toward the field of any art form. Let's talk about comedy. एक होता है comedy lovers. There are someone called comedy lovers. Then there are someone called comedy enthusiasts. And then there are someone called comedy action takers. So this is a workshop. Let's say 100 people have registered for this workshop. I call them comedy lovers. They wanted to learn something, out of the spur of the moment, they just registered for it, right? Then there are comedy enthusiasts who said, yes, we will be joining this workshop. When is the workshop happening? Will it be in English or Hindi? They are enthusiastic about it. They are not only registering, they are inquiring about it as well. And then there are comedy action takers who actually come to the workshop, settle down in a room for 1 hour, 2 hours, and learn that. And it's a very rare number right now. It's a very, very small number as well in the world where people want to learn an art form before even attempting it, right? What I'm trying to say, if you are living in a society or a bungalow or a flat, there would be 15 houses in it and 15 people want to be an actor. But if you ask them, just get out of your house, go to a different city, register for an enrollment into an academy, learn acting, like, nah, I just want to do a direct acting with Shah Rukh Khan. I don't want to learn it. There are very few people who actually want to settle down and learn it, right? So what I'm trying to do here, or what I'm trying to convey here, is that I'm appreciating your enthusiasm towards learning an art form. I appreciate that you are one of the very few people that are actually going in the world looking for the right knowledge and the right guidance to learn an art form and to practice it in a right way. So I appreciate that. I really look forward to meet all of you someday in a green room where I and you will be sharing the stage. So yeah, thank you so much for joining in this workshop. I'm very thankful and I'm very happy that you have joined this workshop and learned a few things about comedy from my side. So Cafe Comedy is the only academy in the entire Asia right now which is doing this kind of thing, which is doing comedy trainings and workshops and sessions. So if you have any feedback about what we are doing, if you have any feedback about this workshop, feel free to simply write them down. We would love to hear that. Thank you so much once again for giving me 1 hour of your life. Thank you so much for making me a comedy mentor of yours for 60 minutes. And I am looking forward to see you someday in a green room where we share the stage. Thank you so much.